Hi, I'm Jason Sullivan of Rathbone Group, and this is on subrogation. This video is going to discuss negligent maintenance and how that theory may give you a cause of action to pursue your subrogation claim. I see this come up most often when I'm dealing with an uninsured motorist, someone who doesn't have insurance to step in and cover their negligence that caused damage to someone else. I'll say, look, you ran the stoplight, you rear-ended our insured, you did something that caused the damage, and to get out of it, to shift blame, they're going to say, well, my brakes weren't working, or the tires were bald, or something else about the vehicle that takes the blame away from how they were operating it to the vehicle. And as an attorney, I know that doesn't work. And most of the time, they're not going to get away with that kind of defense by shifting blame to something that they actually have control over. But you need to be prepared for that defense to come up. And when you know that it's likely or that's something somebody's going to argue, you need to prepare the case so that you can defeat that argument. One of the things you always want to look for is on the police report, does the defendant give a statement that somehow shifts blame? That's a good indication that they're going to continue with that line to say, I'm not at fault, it was something wrong with the car. And ultimately, for your case, you're going to want to prove that that person was responsible for the maintenance of the car and that their negligent maintenance is the cause of action, as opposed to traveling too fast or something like that. You want to have both causes of action in your back pocket to argue to the court why that person should be held responsible. If the person hasn't provided a statement or there's no indication on the police report, you want to listen to what the tortfeasor says when you talk to them. If they start shifting the blame or talking about some mechanical issue, you want to listen to that and then trying to figure out how to pin them down on that issue and get all the facts so that you can present it in court as to why they're responsible, not why they're not responsible. If you are aware that somebody is trying to shift blame to some maintenance issue on the vehicle, you want to make sure that if you're issuing discovery, that the discovery is expansive enough and broad enough to cover those issues. Things that I would like to know about are the maintenance history. Has this vehicle regularly been taken in and checked, oil changes, things like that? When was the last time someone measured the tire tread? Sometimes on the police report, they'll actually indicate that the tires were bald. That's going to give me another cause of action against the person, and definitely not something that they can blame bald tires as for why they didn't stop in time. They had a duty to make sure that the tires and tread were in good shape and therefore should be held responsible. Along with that, you're going to want the maintenance records, how long an issue is known. If the brakes failed, rarely do brakes just suddenly fail. They corrode and deteriorate over time, and as a driver of a vehicle, you know when things start to get a little bit squishy. You're not stopping as fast as you were before. You might hear a little bit of extra screeching. It's really bad if you hear crunching. Those are all signs to a driver that they better get that vehicle into a qualified mechanic to look at the issue and determine if it needs to be repaired. If a driver just ignores those signs, that would be a good reason that they should be held responsible for negligent maintenance if a brake failure or brake unresponsiveness was the cause of the action. Another question to ask the tortfeasor is, how often and what did they do to inspect the vehicle? You can't just be naive about a vehicle that it's always going to run in off the dealership lot condition without regular repair and maintenance. If you ask that tortfeasor early on in the case, either in discovery or in phone conversations, what they did, how often they checked, and then ask for those follow-up supports like receipts and evidence that they actually did those things. Now when you come into court and are potentially presenting the case and the defendant gets on the stand and says, well, there was this issue, you can go back to that prior conversation and use that to either impeach or corroborate the testimony that they were aware and should have done something about it, and by continuing to operate the vehicle in that condition, or willfully ignoring the condition, that they created a danger, they were negligent, and therefore that should hold them responsible for the damages on your claim. Again, this is a lot of times uninsured motorists who don't understand that they could be held responsible for the negligent maintenance who are going to bring it up. An insurance defense side not likely to raise this as an issue, but if it is, that's especially when you want to make sure you're going through the discovery process to pin down exactly what evidence there was that the individual maintained the vehicle and took appropriate action, and try and find those indications that they did not do that. For Rathbone Group and on subrogation, I'm Jason Sullivan, and that's the long and short of it.